I never thought that a broken leg could feel like freedom. The hospital room was quiet, too quiet, save for the hum of the fluorescent lights above and the soft beep of the monitor tracking my heart. One misstep, one lift gone wrong, and my life as a ballet dancer, the life I had sacrificed every joint, every sinew, every ounce of my pride for, was over. Alistair always said, "Perfection demands sacrifice," but I hadn't realized how much of myself I had given until the instant I couldn't dance anymore. I stared at the crutches leaning against the wall, the white plaster cast on my right leg gleaming under the sterile light, and a strange feeling bubbled in my chest. Not grief, not even anger, though that would come later. It was clarity, the kind that hits you when you finally breathe after being underwater for too long. I had been following someone else's choreography my entire adult life. It was time to move on. By the time I returned to the studio a week later, still walking stiffly on crutches, the emptiness of my locker room hit me like a cold slap. Dust motes floated in the beams of sunlight, and the mirrors, once reflecting my poised form, now reflected a body that couldn't execute even a single pirouette. I shoved aside the boxes of old pointe shoes, sweat-stained leotards, and forgotten rehearsal scripts, determined to reclaim some sense of ownership over my life. That's when I saw it, a plain manila envelope tucked beneath the corner of my locker. It wasn't mine. It had no label, no return address, just a sharp crease down the middle, as if someone had pressed it deliberately into hiding. My pulse quickened. Alistair's voice echoed in my head. "Helena, just throw these away. You don't need to know." Curiosity overrode caution. I ripped it open. Inside were sheets of medical documentation, copies, they seemed to be, of Zara's records, the prodigy he had been grooming like a pet project. At first glance, they looked routine. Sprained ankle, mild inflammation, nothing alarming. But a second glance revealed another set, more sinister, stamped and signed, claiming a career-ending spinal fracture. I sat cross-legged on my bed, crutches propped against the wall, and stared at the documents spread out before me. My fingers trembled as I flipped through them again, trying to make sense of what I had just discovered. 2 sets of medical reports. 1 minor sprain for Zara. 1 career-ending spinal fracture, allegedly submitted to the company's insurance. I felt my stomach twist. "This can't be real," I whispered, though deep down I already knew it was. The receipts were even worse. Wire transfers from Alistair's company account to a private, untraceable trust fund. My heart hammered. "He's using my injury for her gain," I said aloud, voice cracking. He's stolen everything I earned, everything I deserved." I closed my eyes, the memory of that last performance flooding back. The stage lights, the applause, the subtle smirk on Alistair's face when I hesitated on my final lift. He wanted me gone. And now, with these documents in front of me, I had proof. I needed help. Someone I could trust. Someone who wouldn't be blinded by his charm or intimidated by his reputation. My mind went immediately to Roman Vance. Roman, the boy I had despised as a child, always mocking my pirouettes with his obnoxious trombone blares. But he had always been honest, blunt, unwavering. And now I needed that honesty more than ever. I dialed his number, the phone shaking in my hand. "Roman," I said when he picked up. "It's Helena. I need your help. He's been committing insurance fraud. It's massive. And it's all tied to me." There was a pause on the line, and then his voice came, steady, calm. "Sit down, Helena. Tell me everything from the top. Don't leave out a single detail." And I did. I told him everything. My injury, the rehearsal, the documents, the transfers. Roman listened, asking questions only a person with his analytical mind could. "Do you have copies?" he asked. "Emails, receipts, signed forms?" I held the envelope closer to my chest. "All of it," I said. "Every shred." "I'll take it from here," he said. "No one will touch you or your finances while I handle this. I promise." For the first time since the accident, I felt something shift inside me. Relief? No. Power. The power to reclaim what had been stolen from me. The power to finally expose the man who had controlled not just my career, but my very life. I looked at the crutches leaning against the wall. My leg was still broken, but my mind felt sharp, alive. I wasn't just Helena the injured dancer anymore. I was Helena the fighter. And this time, the choreography was mine. The next morning, I returned to the studio. It smelled faintly of rosin and polished wood, comforting in its familiarity, yet every corner reminded me of betrayal. My leg throbbed, but I pushed past it. I needed to see the space one last time before Roman, and I moved forward with exposing Alistair. I stepped carefully around the ballet bars and mirrors, my fingers grazing the polished wood as if it could give me answers. That's when I heard the faint rustle of papers. My heart skipped. He's here. Alistair? I called softly, though my voice carried more authority than I intended. He emerged from behind a stack of props, his usual smug expression in place. Helena, he said, tilting his head. I didn't expect to see you back so soon. I held up the envelope. I know everything, I said, my voice steady. The fake medical reports, the insurance transfers, the trust fund. Every last one. Alistair's smirk faltered, just slightly. You don't understand, he said. Oh, I understand perfectly, I interrupted, stepping closer despite the pain. You wanted Zara to replace me. You wanted the insurance payout. You thought I'd never find out. But I did. And now Roman has copies of everything. Every single fraudulent document, every transfer. Do you have any idea what happens next? He ran a hand through his hair. Helena, please. I can explain. You can't, I said firmly. Not anymore. You underestimated me. You thought my broken leg meant I was helpless. You thought I'd just disappear. But you forgot, I'm not just a dancer. I'm Helena Dubois, and I fight back. For the first time, I saw real fear in his eyes. He stepped back, realizing his usual manipulation tactics wouldn't work. You can't do this, he whispered, almost to himself. I already have, I said, pressing the envelope to my chest. Roman has everything. The industry will know. Insurance will investigate. And your career? It's finished. Alistair looked around, desperation creeping into his voice. You'll ruin me. You already did, I said softly, feeling the satisfaction of truth's weight settling into my bones. I don't need to. The evidence speaks for itself. He swallowed hard and muttered something incoherent, then turned and left, slamming the door behind him. The sound echoed through the studio, but it didn't frighten me. I sank onto the floor, crutches beside me, and let out a long breath. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was reclaiming. Every stolen opportunity, every manipulated moment, it was all being set right. And for the first time in months, I felt the exhilaration of complete control over my own life. As I rested, my phone buzzed. A message from Roman. Step 1 complete. Now, let's plan the public reveal. Together. I smiled, a real, unguarded smile. For the first time, I knew I wasn't just Helena the dancer. I was Helena the author of her own story. And this performance, finally, would be mine. The next day, Roman and I met at his studio, a space lined with soundproof panels and the faint scent of old vinyl. He greeted me with a confident smile, the kind that made you feel like together, nothing could go wrong. Ready to make them pay? He asked, gesturing to the stack of documents I had handed over. I nodded, my fingers tracing the edges of the insurance papers. More than ready. I want the truth to hit hard, but clean. No theatrics, no revenge for revenge's sake. Just facts, exposure, and accountability. Roman leaned back in his chair, considering me carefully. Good. That's exactly why I've always admired you, Helena. You don't just act, you strategize. You think 3 steps ahead. I smirked, feeling a spark of pride. It's what surviving Alistair taught me. I've been reactive for too long. Now, it's time to be proactive. We spent hours outlining every step. First, we would submit the medical report evidence and insurance records to the company's compliance board. Next, We would organize a press release detailing the fraudulent activity, ensuring all angles were covered, Zara, Alistair, and the insurance manipulations. Roman's media contacts would guarantee immediate coverage. Do you think he suspects? I asked, tapping a finger on the folder. Not yet, Roman said, eyes glinting. He's too confident. He thinks he's untouchable. That's why this will hurt. The fall is always steeper when you believe you're invincible. I felt a rush of satisfaction but reminded myself to stay grounded. We can't rush. One misstep and it backfires. Precision is key. Every word, every document, every public statement must be airtight. Roman nodded. Agreed. But we also need to protect you legally. You can't be tied to any liability from this exposure. I've got connections. Thank you, I said, feeling the weight of his support. It was strange, this calm trust. I hadn't felt it in years, not with anyone. I need this done right, not just for me, but for every dancer and professional Alistair tried to manipulate. Roman's hand brushed mine briefly. Then we'll do it right. And this time, you won't be alone. You've got me. The hours passed quickly, plans taking shape with careful precision. We rehearsed press statements, discussed potential backlash, and mapped out the timing so that the evidence's release would be undeniable. By the time we left Roman's studio, the city was cloaked in the soft glow of evening. I looked up at the darkening sky and realized something profound. Fear no longer dictated my choices. Survival had given me clarity, but now, strategy and truth were my weapons. This is it, I whispered to myself, a determined smile forming. No more waiting. No more hiding. I take back what's mine, and I start living for me. Roman's presence beside me felt like a shield. Together, we were more than just two people plotting exposure. We were a force of justice, ready to illuminate the shadows Alistair had tried to keep me in. And for the first time in months, I felt the thrill of absolute control over my destiny. The morning air felt crisp as I stepped into the building, clutching the folder of evidence like a lifeline. My heart beat steadily, not with fear, but with purpose. Roman had arranged for us to meet the compliance board first, ensuring they had all the documentation before the press could catch wind. I took a deep breath and pushed open the door. The board members were already seated, their expressions polite but curious. Miss Du Bois, one of them said, gesturing for me to sit. We understand you've come forward with some concerns regarding your company's insurance claims. Yes, I said firmly, placing the folder on the table. I have incontrovertible evidence that shows fraudulent insurance claims were submitted by my former director, Alistair Reed, using falsified medical reports. I want to ensure these documents are reviewed and acted upon immediately. As I spoke, I felt the weight of the past months, the endless rehearsals, the pain, the betrayal, beginning to lift. Finally, someone was listening. A young board member leaned forward, scanning the folder. These records, they appear authentic, but the manipulation is clear. Are you prepared to testify, if necessary? I met his gaze steadily. Absolutely. I will provide every detail, every conversation, every transfer I have. Roman gave me a subtle nod from the corner, a silent reassurance that we had prepared for this. After the board session, we moved on to the press conference. Cameras flashed, microphones were set up, and journalists murmured among themselves. Roman handed me a carefully crafted statement. Read this word for word, he said. We control the narrative. Stick to the facts. I clear my throat. Good morning. My name is Helena Du Bois. I am here today to expose fraudulent insurance claims submitted by my former director, Alistair Reed. These claims were based on falsified medical documents for my former protege, while my own legitimate claim was denied. This is a systemic issue of professional and financial misconduct that I refuse to remain silent about. The reporters scribbled furiously, some murmuring in disbelief. One woman raised her hand. Can you prove your allegations? I opened the folder, holding the evidence up. Every document here is verifiable, from the forged medical records to the wire transfers. These are not allegations, they are facts. I am calling for accountability and full transparency. Roman stepped forward, adding, "Our goal is not revenge. It is to restore integrity to the company and ensure that such misconduct never happens again. Ms. Du Bois has courageously provided all necessary documentation." The questions kept coming, but I stayed focused, my voice strong. Each word was a declaration. I would no longer be silenced, manipulated, or erased. Later, as we walked out of the conference, Roman draped his coat over my shoulders. "You did it," he said, pride evident in his voice. I smiled, exhaustion and exhilaration mixing in equal measure. "No," I said. "We did it. Together." And for the first time in months, I felt the rush of liberation, justice unfolding before me, and my future finally in my own hands. The morning after the press conference, my phone was buzzing nonstop. Every notification felt like a drumbeat, signaling the avalanche I had set in motion. Headlines screamed about Alastair Reed's fraud, and social media was ablaze with outrage. For the first time, I didn't flinch, I didn't hide. I had stepped into the light. Roman met me at the studio. His expression was a mixture of admiration and concern. "You're a lightning rod today," he said, glancing at my phone. "Everyone wants a piece of you, and no one's letting go." I laughed, a little bitterly. And for months, I was invisible. Funny how that works. He handed me a cup of coffee, and I took it gratefully. "They're asking for interviews, statements, TV spots. You ready for all that?" "I have to be," I said. "It's not just about me. It's about every dancer who could be exploited, every artist silenced." My voice hardened with resolve. "This is bigger than Alastair. It's about integrity in our industry." Roman nodded. "And you're not alone in it." By midday, I was fielding calls from lawyers, journalists, and even former company employees who had quietly suffered under Alastair's rule. One former dancer emailed me, "Thank you for standing up. I was afraid for years to speak. Your courage gives us all hope." I felt a pang of empathy. I had been that scared dancer once, hiding behind smiles and plies while my dreams were quietly stolen. Now I was reclaiming not just my own voice, but theirs too. Late afternoon brought a new twist. My agent called, voice trembling. "Helena, there's an offer on the table. A new dance company wants you to lead a performance initiative, artistic freedom guaranteed. They've been watching your story unfold." I sank into a chair, absorbing the weight of it. Finally, a tangible reward. Not money, not fame, but the autonomy I had been denied for so long. Roman leaned against the doorframe, watching me. "You deserve it. And you've earned it." I smiled, a genuine, unguarded smile. "I do, don't I?" He came closer, his presence grounding. "More than anyone knows. You turned fear into power, Helena. And that's rare." My phone buzzed again, but this time I didn't answer. I looked at Roman instead. The news could wait. For the first time since my injury, I wasn't defined by the past, the accident, or Alastair's deception. I was defined by choice, by action. "And what about you?" I asked softly. "You've been in my corner this whole time. Are you just my protector, or do you have your own dreams to chase?" He smiled, leaning closer. "My dream? Right now, it's standing beside you, helping you rebuild everything you lost, and maybe, just maybe, seeing what we can create together." I felt warmth spread through me, a mixture of relief and exhilaration. Finally, I was ready to step forward, not just as a survivor of betrayal, but as a woman in control of her life, her art, and her heart. Weeks had passed since the scandal broke, and the dust was finally settling. The dance world was still buzzing about Alastair's downfall, but I could feel a tangible shift in my own life. I had returned to the studio, the one Alastair had once controlled, but now it was mine to reclaim. Every bar, every mirror reflected not fear, but possibility. Roman was there, as always, helping with logistics for the new company's showcase. "I still can't believe you managed all this," he said, handing me a stack of contracts. "And you did it without losing your head." I laughed, the sound light and free. "I may have lost my leg, but not my mind." He shook his head, smiling. And that's why you're the one who walks away standing while everyone else is scrambling. That evening, I stayed late, rehearsing a small sequence I had choreographed in secret. Each movement felt like a reclaiming of my body, a declaration that the accident had not taken my spirit. Roman watched silently, occasionally nodding with approval. "You've come a long way since the injury," he said softly. "And yet, you're still the same Helena I've known. Fierce, uncompromising, unstoppable." I looked at him and, for the first time, really saw him. Not just as my childhood rival, or the man who had secretly cheered for me from the sidelines, but as someone who had fought alongside me through the darkest parts of my life. "I couldn't have done any of this without you," I admitted. He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "And you never have to. We're in this together." The next morning, the company's first showcase opened. Nervous energy hummed in the air as dancers prepared for their cues. I stepped onto the stage, taking a deep breath. Every eye was on me, but instead of fear, I felt a surge of exhilaration. I was no longer the pawn in Alistair's games. I was the creator, the lead, the authority. Roman stayed at the edge of the stage, watching, and when I caught his eye, he gave a subtle thumbs up. I smiled, a mixture of gratitude and anticipation. This was our stage, our rules, our life. After the performance, we gathered in the empty studio. The applause and praise from the audience still echoed in our minds. I turned to Roman. "We did it," I said, my voice trembling with emotion. He took my hands, holding them firmly. "We did. And this is just the beginning." I realized in that moment that my rebirth was complete. The betrayal, the injury, the stolen opportunities, they were all behind me. What lay ahead was honesty, passion, and partnership. And as I looked into Roman's eyes, I knew that my future, both personal and professional, would be shaped by choice, trust, and unwavering integrity. For the first time in years, I felt whole. The morning sun streamed through the studio windows, illuminating the polished wooden floors. For the first time in years, the space felt like mine, untouched by fear or betrayal. Every corner held memories of pain and triumph, and now they were mine to claim. Roman was already there, adjusting sound levels for the rehearsal. He looked up as I entered, a warm smile spreading across his face. "Morning star," he said lightly. "Ready for round 2? I laughed, feeling the lightness of my rebirth. "Always. But today, I feel like I'm dancing for more than just the audience. I'm dancing for me." He stepped closer, brushing a strand of hair from my face. "That's the difference. You've reclaimed everything they tried to take from you." I felt a thrill of gratitude, and perhaps something deeper, as I looked at him. Roman had always been a silent witness to my struggles, my rival in childhood, and now the steadfast partner I never expected. "I couldn't have done it without you," I admitted, my voice soft but resolute. He took my hand and held it gently. "And you never will have to." As the dancers took their positions, I felt a surge of empowerment. The company was no longer Alistair's shadow. It was a testament to resilience, honesty, and passion. Each movement I led on stage was a declaration. I would never be silenced, manipulated, or sidelined again. Later, after rehearsal, Roman and I walked through the empty theater, the echo of our steps filling the vast space. "Do you remember the first time you taught me your choreography?" he asked, a teasing glint in his eye. I chuckled, leaning against the railing. "How could I forget? You almost tripped over your own ego." He laughed, but the tone softened. "And yet, somehow, we ended up here, together." I felt the weight of the journey, the betrayals, the injury, the stolen insurance, the endless shadows, and realized it had led me to this clarity, this partnership. "We did it," I said, squeezing his hand. He pulled me close, resting his forehead against mine. "We did. And from now on, every step, every note, every performance, we face it together." That evening, we celebrated with the company in the studio. Laughter and music filled the space, a stark contrast to the silence of the past. I looked around at the dancers, at Roman, at the life we were building. It wasn't perfect, and it never would be, but it was honest. Solid. Alive. As the sun set, painting the studio in warm amber light, Roman kissed me gently. "To the new era," he whispered. I smiled, feeling it in my bones. To truth and to us. For the first time since the accident, since the betrayal, I was free. My body had healed, my spirit had reborn, and my heart had found a home. Not in the shadows of deceit, but in the clear light of love, integrity, and creative freedom. The stage was mine, and so was the life I had fought for.